Do you look back on the last year and wonder, what did I do? What did I accomplish? What month is it? It's already the next year. Hello. If that's happening to you, stay tuned. We have an amazing show for you. This is how not to waste your life, my life, our lives. Okay. Stay tuned. We've got Robert Myerson on. She is just amazing. She's got a lot to say, a lot of wisdom. We're going to pack it in there. Stay tuned. There's Leah Richeimer for the Ladies Talk Show. First of all, I just want to say it's how not to waste your life. Welcome, Robin Meyerson. So pleased to have you in.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be with your wonderful group of listeners and watchers.
Oh, yay. So the first question I have for you is how not to waste your life. Like, okay, like, can you stand on one foot and tell us this is like insane? I definitely, this is especially with the new year. We need to know how not to let time just whiz by.
Okay, so you introduced me with this whole stuff about burial, so I'm going to tie it a little bit into that. So how not to waste your life in this world and in the next, just to tie it all together there.
Wow.
Okay, so
Can you explain that to our audience of people who don't know what you mean by the next?
Yeah, so this world is where we live, right? We're here right now, and hopefully we're here in this world for hopefully 100+ years, right?
Amen.
And that's a long time, 100 years that you're going to be spending with your spouse.
I hope to 120, like let's not.
120.
What do you say to a guy at 119, whatever, they're 119 years old and 364 days? Have a nice day. No, okay, never mind.
I hope it's 120.
Okay.
120 is kind of a drop in the bucket compared to eternity, right? Eternity is a really, really, really long time. So that's what the next world is. This world is 120 years, and the next world is eternity. So we don't even know how many years that really is, okay? So when we want to talk about how not to waste our life in this world and the next, there's a great quote that's actually in your book. It's Rabbi Chaim Vital, and he said that the majority of a person's eternity is based on how he treats or she treats their spouse. Okay, so if you don't want to waste your life in this world and the next, you got to figure out how to treat your spouse.
This is in Marriage Secrets. This is a 220 Torah sources, and all the money for this goes for shalom bayis. So I can push it as much as I want because I have nothing to gain, except you having a better marriage. But anyway, yeah. So Rav Chaim Vital says that the majority. I'm going to repeat it. It's very, very powerful. Are you writing this down? The majority of a person's eternity is how they treated their spouse. So is that going to tie into how not to waste our life?
Yeah, totally. You don't want to waste this life, and you don't want to waste the next life. So you got to know, first of all, like there's 5 main things you have to know. And then we're going to go through those 5 main things. Number one, you got to know your purpose. What's your purpose as a wife? Or if you want to be a wife in the future, like let's say you're not married yet, but what's your purpose as a wife? So I do it in a very easy way. Just a sentence, a verb and a noun. It's very easy. You just write down a verb and a noun of what your purpose is on how you don't want to waste your life in this world and the next, so that you can focus on it. And don't just like think it. You got to write it down. Okay,
wait a second. So jumping and fish. I'm lost. That's a noun, a verb and a noun, right? Okay, right. So what do you mean?
So let me give you some examples.
Okay.
So you could also choose an adjective, but for example, I want to be a loving spouse. Okay. I want to be a caring spouse. Now, the other thing about this is you don't have to be it now. You can fake it. You could fake it until you make it, but that's the vision that you have in your head. You can also go to Google and just Google a bunch of verbs that because maybe you can't think of a verb that you want to be. Look at the list. There's like 100 of them on Google and say, okay, which of these verbs do I want to be? Which is my purpose? What's my purpose? You'll know right away. You'll find the word that connects to you. For example, do I want to be a creative spouse? Do I want to activate my spouse? Do I want to be a nurturing spouse? Loving, all kinds of.
It's always spouse in terms of a mission.
For this mission, yeah, to get eternity with your spouse, if that's what we're talking about. If you want, you can have other purposes as well. Like there's 4 main purposes. You're as a person, as a spouse, as a Jewish person. But we're talking about marriage now, right?
No, tell the other ones. So wait, there's one. What are the 4?
So I like to think of myself and all people as a Rubik's Cube. You know that toy?
Yeah, that's 6 sides.
Yeah, it's 6 sides. But in this case, it's a 4-sided Rubik's Cube.
Okay.
So you have a purpose as a spouse.
Right.
You have a purpose as just as your individual soul, as as a person.
Okay.
Then you have a purpose in this generation. Like, why were you born now versus like 500 years ago?
Okay.
And then you have a purpose as a Jewish person. If you are Jewish, then that's in your religiosity, you have a purpose. So those are the 4.
Interesting. Very good. Oh, hold on. We already have a question. Okay, go in.
No. Actually, that concept of what you're saying about the spouse, people are saying, and it was like right away hit for me, is it's so nice that the mission is specific to the spouse, because I find that having a mission with your kids or with your job or with your, the great things you do in life, those are so easy, but mission with your spouse is probably the hardest one. So we can focus on that.
And that's what we're going to focus on today.
Yeah, I think our readers would really like that.
That's
Viewers,
good.
Lots of hearts on the focusing on the spouse.
Okay, fine. Okay, so good. So go ahead. So what you said, a woman needs to know her mission in this generation. So, or, for her spouse, where would the person start looking to think of what their big overall, verb, as you said, that they want to be towards their spouse? So
let's say you think that what you want to do with your goal with your marriage is that you want to be a supportive and loving spouse. Okay. So you write down, I want to be a supportive and loving spouse. And you don't just think it, you write it down. And then I don't care where you put it, but you have to put it somewhere that you're going to see it every single day. So let's say you put it in your purse or on your fridge or on your nightstand, but you want to look at this purpose so that you can evolve into it if you're not already it. And
can other people see it? I mean, do you want it somewhere hidden where your husband doesn't say, yeah, but you didn't do that this day?
You know what? Everybody has their own dynamic with their family, but what's wrong with saying it? What's wrong with saying it so that everybody knows it? And then if let's say you mess up one day, you just like, well, I'm human. I'm working on it. What's your purpose?
Right. Got it. Okay. That's very good. So how does a person begin finding this, how not to waste their life? How do, these 2 words, this, well, we're using spouse as the verb, as the noun. So how do they figure out what their verb is?
So I like to guide people with different examples from other people. So when I give over, people really relate to that. When I give them examples, like here's a few different examples, and then it comes to them. It's like innate inside them. Not everybody's going to say that my purpose as a wife is to help my husband reach his potential. That might not be theirs, but that might be somebody else's. So when they see others, we see examples, then they can say, oh, that's good for them. But then mine is more like, I would like to be a nurturing spouse, or I would like to be an easygoing spouse. There's always going to be a verb or an adjective that's going to relate to your particular person, your soul, who you relate to. So that's how you choose it. You can't go off somebody else's. You can't be somebody else. You can't compare to other people. You have to have your own purpose because you're unique. God gave you your spouse and you're meant to be with each other and you're meant to do your purpose together.
So what does having a purpose with your spouse do for the marriage?
So that's a great question. It really helps you clarify what your role is and what your strengths are. So for example, everybody has weaknesses, right? Besides your purpose, you have weaknesses. But if you know your strength and you know your purpose, then you lead with it. So okay, my purpose is to activate my husband's or my spouse's potential. So then after you know your purpose, then you make a set of goals as it relates to your purpose. And that's the second thing. We're getting
to the second thing. Okay.
Yeah. We'll get to it in a second.
Okay.
But first, you know your purpose. Then you do your goals. Then I don't want to tell you the big picture. First, you make your purpose, then your goals, then you make a timeline, and then you have mindsets. And once you have all those down, and it's not hard, it's really like on one piece of paper. Then once you have it down, then you just review it every day.
And then you're growing into be that person that you want to grow yourself to be so that you're not wasting your life. Okay. So explain to me about goals. This is very, sorry, can we just take one question and then we'll come back to this? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no. So how does, Leah wants to know, how does somebody, I know that she had said like, pick a word, that you want to be, how does somebody know what that word is? Meaning, like, how do they connect to that word and know that that's the right word? Because they may pick something and their spouse is like, you know, I don't want you to be
supportive,
a supportive wife. I want you to be a wife who just respects me, or a respectful wife, or a caring wife. Meaning, how does somebody know they're actually picking the right thing?
Okay, so there's no wrong or right answer here. And let's say your husband does want you to be more respectful or more caring. That's like a character trait that you can work on, but that's not your purpose. Your purpose is something else that you know innately within yourself. So, and it can evolve a little bit over time. So let's say you're in the early part of your marriage and you choose a verb that relates to the early part of your marriage, but it doesn't mean like it totally changes but it can update and evolve over time. So it's okay to change a little bit over time, and not to be afraid that you've chosen the wrong word. It's okay. It's okay to choose and change.
Can you give us an example, like, of the people who you've coached or worked with, what kind of, that they were kind of lost, they didn't really have a purpose or a mission or whatever, and then you help them to pick their words and share with us what their words were and how it changed who they became, or the direction that they headed in their marriage?
Yeah, sure. So it's kind of like this. You make a mushel. If you want to be a lawyer, you go to law school. If you want to go become a doctor, you go to medical school, a nursing school, so on, right? But where do you go for marriage? Where do you go to?
Ladies TalkShow.
The Ladies TalkShow. Oh my gosh, I was just gonna say that. To Leah Richeimer. That's where you go to learn secrets.
Right. But like, so how do you know? So the question being is that if you want to learn how to have a better marriage, so you want to grow into your purpose, you want to have goals, and it's a constant process of learning and growing. So what was your question? I forgot actually. What was
sorry. Oh, the question is if you have an example of somebody who you walked through this process.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So I did. I helped her figure out what her purpose was, and it gave her focus. So she's like, okay, this is my focus. This is who I am. I'm not like the lady down the street who her purpose is more like, I'm going to create the most, she was like a Susie homemaker. Okay. Yeah. So everything that, like, she had 10 layered cakes and 5-course meals for Shabbat, whatever. That's not her. This particular lady was not her. And she was trying to compare herself to everybody on the street. So she's like, I'm not that kind of a wife. I'm not that kind of a person. So having her create her own unique purpose gave her a sense of this joy and happiness so that she could be her real self.
Well, what did she pick?
She chose to be a respectful and loving wife, respectful and loving, not to be a
geschickt. I know how to set the table, and these flowers match the napkins, which match the wallpaper, or whatever. Interesting. So, but it's being a what did you call it? Respectful, loving and respectful wife. I don't know if somehow that I mean, maybe it spoke to her. To me, it sounds a little bit like cliche and a little bit like minimizing her own potential.
Yeah, because it's not yours. That for her, it was hers. For her, it was hers. That to her was the essence of what makes her purpose hers and not yours.
Right. And I don't mean to put anybody down if that's the purpose, because that's gorgeous. Dainu, if you just, that would have been enough. If that was the only thing she did was after 120, when she gets to her afterlife or whatever, when she gets judged, if she got up there and she said, hey, was a respectful and loving wife, she'd go to the head of the class. So that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying in terms of, a mission that calls you forth with like, to be the best at, I'm not sure what a person should go for in choosing their verb.
So when you choose that, then you make goals underneath. So then it makes sense on how to actualize that potential of that.
Okay, purpose. So let's go to this lady's goals. Let's just take her as an example. What would goals look like for somebody who had what are you guys laughing about? Come on, you have to tell us.
Because we're getting feedback from people and we're like giving our own little things. And obviously, me, I mean, loving and respectful wife, you're like, yay. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I could say that was my goal and actually achieve that, I'd be like, I am going straight into Gan Eden. I'm not going for anything. If I can just get to that.
Yeah.
That's such a hard one
So
for me.
the question for you, Sarveet, I mean, this is what I was asking, because I'm not putting down respectful and loving. I'm saying, what I'm saying is that, like, if you woke up in the morning and that was your mission to be a respectful and loving wife, would that set you on fire? Is that what's supposed to happen when you have a mission in life? Yes, she's nodding. Yes. So you.
Oh, I was going to say, definitely, even if it wouldn't set me on fire, my husband would be the happiest man in the whole world. Like, the respectful part, in general, it's not that I don't respect. I very much respect my husband, but because I like things my way, or because I have my own opinion, or even when I'm trying to work on being respectful of what he said, I sometimes find myself, I'm like, oh, why did I just say that? Or he just came home and he got the wrong thing. I'm like, oh, I'm not supposed to say that. And I do it. And I'm like, why can't I just remember that? Like, why can't I keep that as it's very hard.
Okay, so she's going to walk us through this with goals. So this will solve it for everybody. Okay.
First of all, nobody's perfect, right? Nobody's perfect. It's an ongoing process. But before I get to goals, I do want to share this caring for other people concept. There's this, because I deal with the afterlife a lot, there's this great source in Ezekiel 28, and that says that there were 9 people who merited to enter Gan Eden alive. Now, what does that mean? How did they merit to enter Gan Eden alive? It's because, and I'll tell you who they were, and they're so random. I mean, they're not random, but they're very different. There was Bacha. There was the 3 sons of Korach. There was this Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, and there were a few others. But what do these people have in common? I want to tell you what they had in common. Like, first of all, you have Bacha, who, and it's going to relate to goals in a second, but Bacha was the princess, right, in Paro's house, and she pulls out this baby, and she cares for it, and she looks after it, and she raises it because she sees this little baby that nobody's looking after, and because she cares for the baby more than herself. Okay. Then there's this rabbi who merited Gan Eden alive. There was a plague going on, and no one was helping anybody, but he decided to go out in the street and help people. Okay. So he cared about other people more than himself. And what is this trying to teach us? This is trying to teach us that if you care for people as if they are yourself.
What about Sons of Korach? Wait, I have to know Sons of Korach.
The Sons of Korach, yeah. The Sons of Korach. What they did was they repented, and they didn't follow their father. They didn't follow their father. So what's fascinating about these different people is that I think what they're trying to teach us is that they were caring about other people. And so it doesn't mean like you don't care for yourself and you don't do self-care. But with our marriage, we want to care for our spouse as if they are us, okay? And really, really care. And then you're going to merit that Gan Eden. So that's now, I wanted to go from that before you get into goals, because goals can be so all over the place. And people have goals for like weight loss. They have goals for, their kids, all kinds of goals. But do we really think about the goals for our spouse? How we want to be a better spouse in our marriage, right? Right. Okay. So let's talk about how to take our purpose and bring it down into our goals. So I like to think of making, everybody has a to-do list. Hopefully people have a to-do list, but is your spouse on your to-do list? That's just like a question.
No, let's see the delicious water.
So we want to sort of add him to our list, our to-do list, and say, okay, what can I do today for my spouse? What can I do for my spouse this week? What can I do for him this month? What can I do for him this decade? And that way, it's like that. These are the goals that you're starting to write down. And now I go through different goals, not only by week or by day, by week, year, and so forth, because that can be overwhelming to some people. But then you break it down into further things, like there's these 15 areas. Okay. So in your prayer, how do you want to pray more? But how do I want to pray for my husband? Do I want to pray for my spouse? Do I want to pray for my marriage? So let's start with number 1, prayer. How do I want to make my marriage better? And that's formal prayer and informal prayer. Even like when you're driving carpool, you got to be praying for a better marriage. And how do I become a better spouse? So that's number 1. You start with, did I pray today? Is it on my to-do list? Did I pray for my husband today? Did I pray for a better marriage today? Okay, that's number one. Number two is my health. Did I take care of my health for my spouse? Meaning, like, is my mental health good? Is my physical health good for my spouse? Obviously for myself too, but for my spouse, I want to be with him for 120 years, right? So if you think about that in that different way, you make a goal. Did I exercise today for my spouse so that I am healthy for my spouse, right? Then after health, you think about finances. You can think about, okay, did I spend wisely? Did I look it over a budget properly for my marriage, for my spouse?
It's getting harder and harder. Okay, so keep continuing.
Okay.
I can do this for a go. Okay.
Don't get nervous. Don't get nervous. Did I save up some money so that we can go on a vacation together with my spouse? You know, like having this spouse mindset. So that for the afterlife.
Go through more. These are really good. So you did spirituality, you did finances, more.
More. Okay, great. Yeah, we did prayer, health, finances, Shabbos or holidays, right? So what can I do for my spouse that'll be great? What food does he like? Does he like to have guests? Does he not like to have guests? Does he like the house a certain way? Does he like the table a certain way? Because you think, okay, it doesn't have to be just like everybody else's house. How is the Shabbat for your spouse? What does he want? And that can change over time. Okay. So it's not like set in stone right now. It can change over time. And how did I thank my spouse on Shabbat? Did I praise his singing? Did I praise his Torah that he gave over at the table? Did I interrupt him? Like, what did I do to make Shabbat great for my spouse?
Keep going. These are great.
Okay. How about fun? This is something fun, which is fun. How did I have fun with my spouse today, this week, this month? You can't just like not have fun. So you got to plan it. Like today, did we do something fun together? Even if it's like 10 minutes. This week, did we do something fun? Did we go for a hike? This month, what did we do fun? Make the goal to have some fun every day, every week, every month, so it doesn't get lost. So that's another category, is fun. Then the next one is your house. So I'm talking about like your physical house or your car or your clothes, the physical stuff, right? So you think, okay, how do I make my house amazing for my spouse? What does he like? Does he like certain colors? Does he like the furniture arranged a certain way? Does he need his office, if he has an office, organized a certain way or not touched, like leave my office alone? Mm-hmm. What can I do for my spouse in the area of the physical house, the kind of clothing, the car? What in the physical domain area, what can I do for my spouse? Just thinking about it that way. And then there's a
lot of hearts, and so she's going like this. Yeah, okay, keep going. And
okay, sure. Then there's like three more. So what brings my spouse happiness? Now I'm not talking about fun. I'm talking about simcha, like really true joy. What's the real definition of simcha, or pure joy, for my spouse? What does he really want? And you have to talk to him. You can't just like guess all these goals. You can't guess the goals. You have to know. You have to start to know and ask questions. What does bring you simcha? Because for your spouse, it might be totally different from another spouse. Like for my spouse, his simcha is having time to actually go do his own thing, and simcha for him is also to be with the grandkids. So believe it or not, I do have 3 little grandkids.
Don't believe it. Okay.
Yeah. So that's his simcha. So I therefore look at the calendar and I say the goal is, okay, so his simcha is having time to himself. So let's make sure today he has from this time to that time by himself, and this week, this time to this time for himself. And then his simcha is to be in the grandkids. But is he going to book the flight to go see the grandkids? No, I'm going to do it. So to give him simcha, I got to book the flight to go see the grandkids, right?
So awesome. Okay, good. These are great.
Okay, so then the next category is learning. And that can be anything. It doesn't have to be Jewish stuff. It could be anything. You want to constantly be learning. So does your spouse want to learn how to, let's say, play tennis? Or does your spouse want to learn a certain Torah thing. So discuss it together and give him time to do those things by himself or together or yourself. If you need to learn how to be more organized, because that'll make your spouse happy, so take a class on organization. If I need to learn how to make healthier meals,
sourdough bread, which everybody's making. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, my daughter makes a great sourdough bread.
Okay.
So like if that brings him happiness and you want to work on that for your marriage, so within reason, learn how to do some of these different things. So you're learning things to make the marriage great.
Fantastic.
Then the next thing is character traits. Now, we talked about purpose, but we also have to talk about our character traits. And everybody has flaws. Nobody's perfect, right? So you want to pick like maybe two or three, maybe two, maybe not three, two character traits where you need to work on so that it makes it better for your spouse. So let's say you're judgmental and your spouse doesn't like that, right? Nobody likes that. So you say, okay, in my goal of judgmentalness, I want to do ABC. I want to try not to judge my spouse in this category because he leaves his socks on the floor, right? So I don't want to judge him on that. So you identify your goal as it relates to your spouse in the category of your character traits. If you are a character trait of being, talking too much and your husband needs some quiet. So
I told you it's getting harder and harder around here.
You go talk to your friend so that you can have some quiet with your spouse. So these are all things. And look, nobody is perfect. I just want to tell you, nobody is perfect. And it's an ongoing.
You're setting a goal. It's like we're all here wherever we are, and you're saying, okay, this is where I'd like to be. There's nothing wrong with growing. You're either on the ladder going up or going down. We want to be going on the ladder going up. So we totally get that. We have a bunch of different questions coming in. So go ahead with those right now. But this is gorgeous. These is practical hands-on tools for how not to waste your life, how to accomplish what you want to accomplish in your life. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so now in all, Jocelyn is asking, in all these practical things that you're coming up with, is it something that you're telling your husband that you're picking, or is it something that you keep quiet?
Whoa, I love that question. The answer is no. You do not tell.
Good.
You do not tell.
I'm glad we agree on that because totally. Yeah, it's telling him that now it makes him your policeman. That's
it'll come back to haunt you. Believe me. Like just keep it quiet. Write it down, and go over it with. Like it's nice to have a girlfriend to share it with, or maybe even a Rebbitzin or somebody who's above you, someone who's a peer, someone who can be objective with you and say, are your goals too high? Are your goals not high enough? Are you give yourself more time to do this? So no, don't share it with your spouse, but share it with a friend, share it with a mentor. So that they can give you objective feedback.
Okay, let's go right into goals. I wanted.
Okay, wait. I have two more questions.
Okay.
Can I just get them in?
Yeah.
Ilana is asking, sometimes I care too much for others over myself. So coming up with goals is definitely a goal of mine. But she says, sometimes I feel like I'm choosing between his needs and my needs.
Okay. Very, very good question. The first thing you have to always do is fill yourself up first so that you can help your spouse and your family. So you got to put time on that to-do list that says, what did I do for myself today? What did I do for myself this week and this month and this year? Because you got to fill yourself up, because how are you possibly going to help your spouse and give to him if you're not healthy, if you haven't given yourself a massage and gotten your nails done? Like, okay, you need to take care of yourself, and then you can take care of your spouse.
And by the way, we had a lot of shows at Ladies Talk Show. Scroll back. We have a lot of self-care shows, and a lot of them have to do with nails and massages and all these, and spa. But a lot of them just are taking 5 minutes for yourself and just going, having a book by your nightstand that is like total, I keep one by, it's called 1,000 Things You Don't Need to Know. You know what I mean? And it's just reading through that. Oh, wow. Did you know that the Milky Way, that the Mickey Mouse was invented by somebody, whatever it is, it's like my down, you don't have to have your thinking cap on. You can just sort of relax. Everybody has their different things. I also like to do arts and crafts and hobbies and things like that. Those things are just, and I don't give myself enough time for it. So I'm bad girl, but I do enough so that I've done my self-care. I'm sorry, they're coming in with another question. We want to get into goals. Can I get into goals?
Okay, so yeah. Go into goals, okay. And then we'll do that.
Okay.
I want to tell you one thing about my self-care. I have a structure in my backyard. It's like a tree house kind of thing. It's not in a tree, but it's a structure outside. And I go into that, and everybody knows mommy's in her prayer palace in the backyard, and that's her self-care. She needs to go up there in her space, look at the mountains, be outside, chill out. That's mommy's. That's my self-care.
Very nice. And do you do that? You have it on a timer to go out there, or you just do it when you need it? Do you clock like 30 minutes a year there, or 5 minutes a day? I mean, how much of integral part of your life is that?
It's very integral. I try to do it twice a day for 30 minutes. I really do, because I do it in the morning and I do it in the late afternoon. And sometimes if it's cold and I can't go outside, fine, I'll do it in the house. But I like to be outside because I'm in nature. It's on my backyard. It's not far away. And I can just like see the mountains and the sky, hear the birds, see the trees. And it's just like it fills me up. And wow. I know that I need it.
That's awesome. Fantastic. Okay. Goals.
Okay. So now that you've kind of you've made these goals, let's say, but you got to write them down, right?
Okay.
You got to write them down. You can't just like think them. And then what you can do is, we come from like Sarah Umenu, right? We come from her, and she was a visioner. She would like visualize these things coming to be. So we can do that too. So you take them, you write them down, but you put them on your schedule by day and by week and by month and by year, because you plan it out. And it sounds sort of scary, but it's not. Once you take a piece of paper and a calendar and you plot it all in there, and you say, oh, I need to fit in my self-care on this time. I need to fit in doing my finances at this time. And you fit it all in. And sometimes you can't do everything all day. You cannot, because if you're working, you're taking care of your kids, doing carpool, mopping the floor, whatever you're doing, you space it out, and you prioritize. Prioritize one thing you can do for your spouse in any of these areas per day. At least try to do one thing for your spouse per day in any of these areas, in any of these goals.
I mean, one out of the 20 you mentioned.
Yeah, there were 15. There were 15.
Okay, 15. Out of those 15, you're just picking one from one of the categories each day, so that you can make progress in grooming yourself into feeling like you aren't wasting your life, that you are accomplishing. I heard something very beautiful. This is from a Musser Sefer that talked about how if you make your to-do list, then you only circle 3 of them. You like how many things are on your to-do list? Like
I don't want to
38.
tell you.
Yeah, it's like on my just my to-do today is 38. You don't have to do tomorrow, do next week. I have them all categorized. But for to do today, I've got like 38 things. So the secret is to circle 3 of them, and when I hit the pillow, if I've done those 3. Zehu, that's it. I'm succeeded, because you'll never get to the bottom of it.
Yeah, by the way, Leah, our Facebook people are saying 1. If they do 1, they're
one thing.
Leah Richeimer is an overachiever. Okay, ladies, she gets it done. She gets more than 3. She gets probably 30 out of the 30.
No. I'm a little obsessive. Whatever.
Leah, Ilana asked. She's the one who had asked. She's the one who had asked earlier, so if Robin can respond to her. She's saying the one I'm totally fine with. Sometimes I feel like I'm choosing between his needs and my needs. So she says, I don't mean self-care. I mean in a specific moment, he needs X now, but I need an absence of X. And she gives examples like, he needs guests and I need quiet. He needs to go on vacation and I need to use that money for car repairs. So when do you choose you and when do you give in to him?
Wow, that's a very hard question. Okay, very, very good. And that's real. That's like real life. I face that every day. So we all do. So, okay, so you have to sit down with a piece of paper and your spouse and at the right time, okay? After someone's had a really nice meal, the kids aren't around, everybody's in a good mood, okay?
Good luck with that. Okay, but we get you. Okay,
this is important. You can't pick and choose between your needs and his needs if people are yelling at each other and like you haven't eaten and you're like hangry. So you have to like sit down and say, look, I want to go on this trip, but you want to buy a new car. So how can we work on this together? And you'd have the discussion, hopefully in a very calm way, as long as you've set the mood right. And maybe you go out on a date night and have this conversation or whatever it is, that so you can set the mood to have the serious conversation. And then you come up with a plan that says, okay, maybe if we, let's say it's between a vacation and a new car. Okay. So you make a little plan of, well, how much money you look at ideas of how do we save for both, and maybe we do a different type of vacation. Maybe it's a staycation, or maybe if instead of buying a new car right now, maybe we can do it in 6 months. So you have out the dialogue. You don't deny each other's needs, his needs and your needs. You try not to deny each other's needs. You try to figure out a way to meet both needs in a way that works. With time, maybe you need to get an outside objective person to give you some ideas too. Other people do it different ways.
What was the first example, Sarita? I forgot the first one already. That was a fabulous.
The first example was he needs guests and I need quiet.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, guests and quiet. Okay, fine. So guests and quiet. So what you could do is you could say, would it be okay with you? What do you mean like guests? Is it like 10 guests you you can't handle 10 guests? That's fine. But is it okay if I have 2 guests? Get clarity on what the guests are. Can I have
let's
guests?
say 6 guests. He says 6. So I want 6.
He says he wants 6 and you want quiet.
And so, 6 means you have to put the middle thing. What are those things called in the middle of the table?
Yeah, the extender.
You have to put so you have to take all the stuff off the table. You have to put the extender. You have to put everything back.
You have to add the extender to make room and add more chairs.
Right, exactly. Bring the chairs down from the other kitchen, then put them back after Shabbos. Okay, so that's what.
Yeah. So let's get to the root of why about the guests. What's the root of it? Is it because it's you feel like you have to be put on stage and you have to give over extra, words of wisdom at the table? Or is it because...
Oh, you mean why he wants to have more guests?
Yeah, like, is it she wants more guests? Like,
no, he wanted more guests and she wanted rest from that example.
Okay, so let's say she wants rest. Well, what can we do to help her then? Is it she doesn't really want the guests, or is it because she just needs more help? She needs more help with let's say the food preparation or the cleaning help, or
putting the table in and out and the chairs.
Yeah. What's the root? The root of it is like, maybe she really does want guests, but she's overwhelmed with how to take care of 6 guests.
So how are they solving it? You're saying they're having a conversation, peeling back the layers of the onion of what's at issue. Is that what you're saying? How to solve?
Yeah, you have to peel it back and find out what's really the issue. Is it the guest that you like, or is it's called paradising. You break it down like an engineer, like he's making a computer. There's lots of pieces and parts that make the computer. So you break down the guests are quiet. What is it about this situation that's causing you to not want it? What is it? And identify it. Is it the shopping? Is it the cooking? Is it the cleaning up? Is it who to invite? Are you overwhelmed? What is it about having the guests? So break it down, step down.
Yeah, Leah, I have to be you for a moment, because just to show you how well I listen to you when you speak. But this has been something that has been brought up by many times in the show. So it's interesting that Alana's bringing it up and a lot of people have. And this is your lovely response all the time. That as a wife, you turn to your husband and you say, husband, dear, I really want to make you happy and have 6 guests. And I think it's amazing. And I want you to be happy. But dear, it's so hard for me. And I do feel like there's a lot involved. Dear, what do you think? What should we do? How can we help me feel better about having 6 guests?
I love you. I love you. I love you. You're channeling me. That's awesome. That's very good.
I am, because you've answered this so many times that you just give it to him back and,
Put it
you know,
in his lap.
vulnerably ask him, how can you make him happy without it hurting yourself?
And you have to know, it's not about manipulating him or trying to, put him in a spot where he now is, defensive about. It's like we have instead of it being your side and his side, it's like, we have a problem, dear husband. How can we solve it? Maybe here's some ideas or whatever. What do you think we should do? And let him take responsibility and ownership for trying to help solve the problem.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah. So cute. Okay. We're running out of time, and we still have, we have to go through the last 3 points. So what the next one's mindset. So maybe you can teach us a little bit about what you mean.
Okay. So, first of all, I just want to say that I've been married 31 years, and I did the first 14 years of my life, I didn't know any of this. So, and then the other 17 years, thank God, I've learned these things. So it's a work in progress, and always. So, and I'm really grateful for that. So these mindsets, besides your purpose and your goals and making a timeline, you come up with these are some core mindsets that you want to know. And fundamentally, the afterlife mindset, that you're building a great spiritual afterlife together. So it's number one, you want to live in the present. Okay. Number one, live in the present. Forget the argument you had 5 years ago. Forget the future, because it didn't even happen yet. Just live in the present. I know it's really, really hard to do. It's really, really hard to do, but it doesn't exist. So that's number one.
What doesn't exist?
The past and the present, the past and the future, they don't exist.
Yeah. Okay.
They exist in your mind, but they don't exist.
So what would be an example of living in the present?
Being mindful of the present moment is when someone comes in, and let's say someone in the present did something that you didn't like. Okay. You just deal with it in the present. You don't bring back, for the last 5 years, you kept doing that. Don't do that. Just say, okay, I would really appreciate it right now if you could not do that. Live in the present.
Got it. Okay, fine. Good.
Okay, that's an easy one. Okay, number two, mindset is that God loves you. Okay, God loves you. He gave you this spouse. Maybe things aren't all hunky-dory rosy all the time, but he loves you, and he gave you the spouse because he wants you to grow and he wants you to change. And so just trust the journey. Okay, so that's number two. Okay. Now, number three is that God is also among us. So he's watching us. Now, this could be a little freaky, but it's not. Okay, it helps. God is amongst us. So if you're having a stressful time in your marriage, you just talk to him, just pray to him and ask for help. But he's among us because he's in the marriage with you, right? Mm. He's with you. He's among us. He's in your house when you're cooking dinner. He's with you in your all the time in your marriage. So it's not just you and your spouse. Turn to that third partner. Okay. Right. That should really help.
This is all about mindset. What are
mindsets? Having this mindset, and you're not going to get this overnight. You're really not. You got to, write them down and review them over and over again, because it's not something you just overnight get, but over time it becomes part of you. So the next one is how to control your thoughts. Now, when I was in third or fourth grade, the fireman came to school, and he said, if there was a fire, you would drop. And you would stop what you were doing, you would drop, and you would roll on the ground, and that would protect you from the fire. So I like to apply this to thoughts. Okay. So let's say God puts a thought in your head, and all thoughts come from God. It's your choice how you react. So what do you do with this thought that could be really disempowering and very annoying thought or judgmental thought? You stop, you drop the thought, and you roll with it. So, okay.
Wow.
Stop, drop, roll.
Wow.
So, because this is the mindset of stop, drop, roll. Now, the next.
You roll with it, meaning water off a duck's back.
Yeah, water off a duck's back. That's my father's British, and he always used to say that.
Water off a duck's back. Yes. Okay. So go ahead.
Right.
Next one.
The next mindset is this afterlife consciousness, that you're building your spiritual bank account with your spouse. We focus so much on we're building our material bank account, how many dresses, how many shoes, how many houses, whatever, how many vacations. Okay. So that's important. Of course it's important, but really what counts is our spiritual bank account. How many nice words did I say? How many mitzvahs did I do? How many ways did I support? So this is building your afterlife consciousness bank account. Okay. So it's really, and you can measure it. You can count it up before you go to sleep at night. How did I do today in my building up my spiritual bank account before you go to sleep?
Great. Yeah, no, that's a definite antidote to not wasting your life, because you're always measuring and monitoring and growing in the areas that you want. We only have a couple more minutes, so we have to do the last two.
Okay. So the last two are effort versus result. So let's say that's the mindset. You just have to try. You just have to try to have the greatest marriage. You just have to try to give a compliment. You just try to support your husband. The result's up to God. You just have to know that mindset, that you just have to try. And then the last mindset is to know the map of moods, to know when is the right time to talk to someone, not when they're in a bad mood. Have this mindset in your head to just know when to see the good moments of when to have the goals conversations and the finance conversations and all that. So understand the mindset of moods.
Wow. Mindset of moods. I love that. Rather than like a timing of what's going to be the most effective way to make that communication. That's a gorgeous thing. Okay. We have to do the last two things, the last two points. We have having a schedule with priorities. That was your last point. And then the 2-day challenge. So can you cover those two in a short bit, because we're out of time?
Yeah. So I want to share this mushel. It's called the Chinese bamboo tree. So you can water this Chinese bamboo tree with water and sunlight for 5 years, but you don't see any growth, zero growth. Then all of a sudden after 5 years, it grows like 90 feet in 19 days. So you could say, I don't see any change in my marriage. I'm doing all these goals. I'm making all these priorities. I'm giving all these kind words, but I don't see anything. But it's like the Chinese bamboo tree.
Is that really how that works?
Yeah, it's crazy. I heard this over from Adrian Gold. Amazing, on this momentum trip to Israel.
Wow.
Yeah, it's because the Chinese bamboo tree has this elaborate underground root system. And that's the connection. We're building this elaborate root system. We might not see any noticeable change within our marriage.
Gorgeous.
Okay, but we're doing it. We really are.
Wow.
So slowly, we're watering the tree. Okay. That's up. And then the last thing you said was the challenge. So I really like to challenge people to put this into action. So I call it like the 48-hour challenge or the 2-day challenge. So take the next 2 days and just sit down and write out what your purpose is, write out your goals.
Your verb and your adjective.
Yeah,
your verb and your noun. Okay.
Verb and your noun. Yeah. Write it out on a piece of paper and write out some goals. You don't have to go crazy, but write it out and then reflect on it. Maybe show it to a girlfriend or something, or a mentor, and then keep that plan somewhere where you can look at it. And you can edit it over time, but at least in the next 48 hours, in the next 2 days, write out your purpose and your goals, and in a timeline. Like, I'm going to do this today, and this week, and this month.
That's gorgeous. Wow. Robin Myerson, thank you so much for being on the show. The way people can get in touch with you is www.robinmeyerson, Meyerson.com. And you can follow up with all the different things that she has. Amazing, very inspirational. And now none of us are going to waste our life, right? And last thing, she's flagging.
No, that was beyond.
Okay, beyond.
Like, this is a class that I need to go back and do notes on. There's like so much in it.
The notes. I know, exactly. This was really gorgeous. Thank you so much for enlightening us, inspiring us with your wisdom and your motivation. I'm very, very excited with this sort of a new game plan that all of us have. Thank you so much for being with us. This is Leah Richeimer for the Ladies Talk Show. Thank you so much for joining us. here's the thing, ladies. If you don't subscribe, you may miss out and you're going to miss some great content. So you need to either like us or follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, on Torah Anytime, on YouTube, or go right to our website, www.ladiestalkshow.com, and fill in a subscription button. And then you'll get every week an update on exactly what's happening. And if you do that, oh, by the way, if you subscribe on our website, you also get 10 tips to have a great relationship. Don't miss it. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks a lot.